6 mountain climbs with varying degrees of difficulty. As the numerals decrease, the severity increases. The last 70 miles of climb and descent could determine this tour's future. A moment to remember the tour's past now. 2 years almost to the day after Fabio Casartelli crashed and lost his life on the Col des Portes d'Aspet. His family and friends, which included all the members of the peloton, stopped to remember 2 things. These athletes love what they do, and that Fabio died doing it. Once they got rolling again, Festina, the French climbers, picked up right where they left off. The current king of the mountains, Laurent Brochard, stayed on that throne. Next in line, Richard Virenque and Pascal Hervé rounded out the first family of climbers. The next mountain summit, 75 miles into this exhausting stage. This is the 3rd climb of the day, up the Col de Portes. Looks like an instant replay of climbs 1 and 2, but I promise you it's not. Brochard in first in the climber's jersey, followed by his Festina teammate Virenque. Paul Sherwin, what about a possible deal here? Is Virenque interested in another jersey medal?
Well, there's certainly a deal, Adrian. They're on the same team. Brochard has had the King of the Mountains jersey since day 1. Virenque has won it 3 times in the past. I think he wants to see his friend and teammate stay in that jersey as long as possible. But in the back of his mind, I think he could also be thinking about the yellow.
Paul, another point that needs to be made. We're only halfway home. These guys have a lot more mountains to climb.
Certainly, Adrian. You see, the last 40 miles, there are 3 major climbs, are very tough ones indeed. The important thing on a long stage like this is keeping your energy levels tanked up, especially on the flatter part of the course. Because on the hills at the end, you can't eat going up because you're looking for breath. You can't eat going down because you need all of your ability just to control the machine. If you don't eat and your energy levels go down, then you crack on the final climb.
Paul, something to consider as we take a break here. Of the 157 miles in today's stage, the riders will be climbing 94 of those. This is why they call us one of the toughest tours in 20 years. There's Laurent Brochard wearing the polka dot jersey as the points leader in the mountain climbing competition. Now, points are awarded at each climb, but here's what you get when you win these climbs. From Or Category, the most difficult, to Category 3, the least difficult today, you receive more points for winning the tougher climbs. Now approaching the summit of Den Valira at 8,000 feet, the highest point of this Tour de France, a couple of guys are struggling. As you see, Laurent Jalabert, who is attacked and now has fallen back. Bjarne Riis having a tough time. At the yellow jersey, Cedric Vasseur struggling as well. But climbing better than we expected, American Kevin Livingston of Team Cofidis. At this point, Laurent Brochard has really fallen off the pace after a great ride yesterday. But this shows you how strong Festina really is as a climbing team. There's Laurent Dufaux and Richard Virenque. But the big news is that Bjarne Riis seems unable to keep up with any of these great climbers. Let's go to Paul Sherwin.
Marco Pantani coming across here, but one thing Riis has got to keep in the back of his mind now is the fact there's a very long descent down here into the town of Andorra, and there he may well be able to recuperate and pull back this time. But Virenque is riding like a man possessed. He knows today he can actually win the Tour de France. He can put Bjarne Riis into serious difficulty.
Well, this tour is turning out to be one to defy the experts. It's a marvellous tour. Riis clearly in trouble, but remember, they say if you ride well in one of the mountain chains, then you don't ride well in the other. So the Alps are still to come, and bad days may come for the riders who appear so strong at the moment. Ulrich on the left looks the strong man, coolly taking a drink over there. And a big acceleration by Bjarne Riis. He's decided it's time to get across to that lead group if he can. As Paul has said, it's a long, long, long way down to the bottom of the Onvalira, so there is time to get back on the way down.
Well, he's let all the other riders jump across one at a time. You can see the lime green shorts there of Fernando Escartin. He's done it, and now Riis waited to see what the damage was that was being done. And look at the size of the gear that he's using, Phil, on that climb. He's used all of his power to come up to that group. There certainly will be some sore bodies when they get to the top of those 2 climbs as well, but it must certainly today be the day for the Festina. But I wonder why Jan Ullrich went back to talk to his team manager there. He went back very easily indeed, had a quick word with Walter Godefroot there, probably to try and find out what the situation was with the team camp, how Bjarne Riis was doing, and what exactly he should do.
Well, the way he pedals back to that group there, he makes it look so easy. I mean, he pedals with the same relaxed style of the great Irishman Stephen Roche, who won the Tour de France in '87 and did the triple that year, the Tour of Italy and the world title. The only other man to have done the triple is Eddie Merckx. He did it in 73, I think it was. And the other half of Ulrich reminds me of Eddie Merckx. Just the absolute strength of the man. And there's never been a rider like Eddie Merckx. And I think we may be looking at Ulrich in the making here. He is so strong.
He doesn't show any emotion at all on the climbs. He doesn't show any suffering at all in his face. He just looks around to see exactly what is happening with all of his opponents. And yesterday, his response to all of the attacks by Richard Virenque were quite remarkable. He's not a pure climber, but he has the strength and the suppleness to accelerate and respond to all these little attacks.
This very nice little group. Francesco Casagrande of the Saeco team. That's the same team that Mario Cipollini rides for. Mario probably watching this on television today from somewhere in Italy. And there's young Hamilton sitting at the back, and he's riding very well. He must have come up pretty well. I said Tyler Hamilton, Kevin Livingstone from the Cofidis team. Lance Armstrong, who has come here to watch the race today, also on the Cofidis team. We're pleased to see a fellow American has found the strength to cross the gap and hook up at the back. Kevin is a real talent. It's his first Tour de France, little overawed perhaps, but a man who in a couple of years could well be mixing it with the best. He's a very good climber, Paul.
He certainly is. He was spotted a couple of years ago riding the Tour of Austria when he was with the United States amateur team, and from there he won the highest stage of the event to the top of one of the big glaciers. So he is a great climber. He's been very well looked after over the last couple of years, and to be in this kind of a crowd, he really has done well.
Well, here's the sprint for the top, and Virenque gets it quite easily from Dufault, and I think it was Casagrande taking it third over the line, so the points stay in the Festina camp. The king of the mountains of the Tour for the past 3 years, getting points there, and that's going to nose him pretty close to his teammate, Laurent Brochard, who was unable to fight out the points there because he's a long way back, having punctured on this climb.
We want to welcome a special guest to our broadcast booth now. American Lance Armstrong, recovering from cancer treatment, has joined us here in the Pyrenees, and he and Phil are side by side analyzing things.
Lance, you must be pretty pleased by the way Kevin Livingstone came up on that climb. It's a tough one.
Yeah, it was very long, and he did a great job of hanging in there. But it doesn't surprise me.
Well, you know him very well, but I mean, he's been a little bit under pressure in this Tour. Why would he choose today to suddenly find the legs to come up? He didn't find them yesterday.
Well, he wasn't terrible yesterday. I don't know. Yeah, some guys climb better on the second day in the mountains. It's not uncommon.
Now, what do you think of Ulrich? We've seen him these last 2 days.
I think he's going to clobber him today. That's what I think.
Do you really do? Do you think he's going to ride away from us?
It's going to be ugly. It's going to be... I think so.
What about the position he is in? He openly says he tries to help Rees, and he obviously does, because you see it on the television. I mean, what a position for him to be in. Do you think he wants to stay back? Do you want to release all that energy?
He's a shy kid, having raced with him for a couple of years. And I think he's sincere when he says he's here for the team and he's here for Telecom and here for Rees. But he's also a big champion. I'm sure thoughts of winning goes through his mind. It doesn't matter. I think he's going to win anyways.
Lance and Phil, think of all the riders in this Tour who waited and prayed for Indurain to retire, and now here comes this kid. Could be his big day when we return. Over the Col d'Ordino, won by Jean-Philippe Dauja. He's now out in front of the main field about 1 minute. But what he faces, as well as the rest of the field, the hors category climb to Andorra. Now on the face of that final climb, look at the 26-year-old Frenchman, Cedric Vasseur, showing what the French call panache, a real tenacity, honoring the yellow jersey for a 5th day in a row. He just refuses to surrender to the Pyrenees. A 26-year-old Cedric Vasseur doing everything he can to defend the yellow jersey.
And now this is the big climb, the one to the finish. And no, Cedric Vasseur is not quite the first man on the road, but he is riding magnificently. He is not very far behind the leader, who is Jean-Philippe Dauja, and he is in front of everybody else in the Tour de France. Paul, magnificent.
Well, he's been drop Phil on every one of the last 3 climbs. He's fought his way back every time. He is certainly riding like a man who wants to keep hold of the yellow jersey. And what he did just at the bottom of the climb here, all of the big favourites were watching each other. So he said, right, I'm going to try and keep the yellow jersey.
A very, very sensible tactic indeed, and Cedric Vasseur is in fact second on the road right now, with the steep part of this climb up to the finish to come. The third rider we've caught glimpses of is Fincato. He went clear, and then this group here, and it looks as though Ulrich is now trying to make a move, and trying to join him too is one of the, I think it is in fact Fincato. No, it's not. It's Camazin. No, it's Casagrande who's come up there. Casagrande on the shoulder. Fincato has been caught. I think that's him just behind. So this select little group, and for the first time, Vasseur, who has followed, decided I'm fed up with this following game. He has come through. He hit them at the bottom of the climb and has gone clear. His plan is not to win, but to try and hold them off as long as possible. Sorry about the picture breakup. Is Jan Ullrich. He's still looking pretty cool, although he looks so he's feeling the heat of the day at last with his zip undone. But this rider has so much power on the climb. Here comes the attack, or does it now? On the far side, Richard Virenque moves out to get a good look of the group. It's showdown time now, of course, because on the climb here there's no descent. The finishing line is at the top, and now Ullrich, who has followed Wheels for 2 days in defence of Rees, is now going to start to stretch them. Further up the climb, we have the Maillot Jaune. He's looking over his shoulder. They are coming slowly towards him. That's Fincato, who will be the first to reach him. Ullrich is now coming after them. Has there been a decision between him and Rees?
There must have been a decision. There must have been a serious talk last night. I think Jan Ullrich has decided now. I've been sitting around working for Rees for the last few days. You can now see just exactly how strong I am, and that's what Richard Virenque is trying to do.
Well, there's such a buzz gone up around the commentary position here. I don't think anybody expected him to do this, but in fact Jan Ullrich has sailed past the Maillot Jaune, Cedric Vasseur. He's now looking to take that jersey for himself. He looks over his shoulder, he sees who's with him. The answer is no one, and now he is going to head up towards the man who has led the race since the previous call, Jean-Philippe Daugevin. So Jan Ullrich has declared his colours. He wants to lead.
Phil, just one more man to catch, and he'll win today's stage. More in a moment. 97 Tour de France. He had one man to beat, Jean-Philippe Daugevin. He has done that and doesn't have far to go.
5 kilometers from the finish now for Jan Ullrich and everybody else who have been kept in the dark all day yesterday. So the strength of this man now know he is every bit as strong as he has appeared on our television. Jan Ullrich pedalling towards the top in the great manner of Eddy Merckx, who won this Tour de France 5 times.
Well, I think, Phil, if he is at the head of affairs today, he owes it to one man. It's the man in the blue and white jersey here of Festina. Because on the third climb before the finish, the Port de Envilara, this man, Richard Virenque, attacked all the time. He's the one who softened up the opposition. And once it came to the final climb, Ullrich was still fresh. Well, he's certainly blowing the race apart right now, because the gap to the two chasers is 55 seconds. It's 1 minute and 15 seconds to Casagrande, but 2 minutes now is the gap to Bjarne Riis and Abraham Olano. So he's really put a dynamite underneath the Tour de France this afternoon. He's blowing everybody away.
Paul, as you know, no athlete should have to apologize for his level of ability and talent. Bjarne Riis certainly doesn't expect that from Jan Ullrich. All he can do is thank him for all of his support to this point. 4.5 minutes behind the leader, Ullrich now. This is Cedric Vasseur doing everything he can to hold on, but what a fantastic and heartfelt effort he's made over the last 2 days. Any rider makes a final attack on the final mountain, you might see your Tour winner. It's Jan Ullrich.
He's such a shy boy. It's hard to get anything out of him. He only speaks German, and he always likes other people to do the talking. That's why he's always preferred Bjarne Riis to lead the race. But now his strength has proved just too much. It has literally taken him away from the rest of the Tour de France today. He could wait no longer. Now he's going to drive all the way and claim every second he can. As this wonderful little rider from Germany, a man who I think is probably the best cyclist we have seen on a bike for many, many years. He's ridden all of them off his wheel on the climb today, and all the crowd know it. They know what they're seeing here. The commentators too. I won't forget the buzz when he attacked, because everybody has waited for it. So Jan Ullrich of Germany, the champion, is now set to win furthest stage of the Tour de France, and there's no doubt either he will go into the leader's yellow jersey. He looks down at his gears there, and this is a very, very steep part of the climb, but he's still conscious of the fact it's time to zip up the jersey and look smart for the television cameras. His championship of Germany racing jersey. He's out of the saddle, I think, for one of the first times of the whole climb here. As it's 7 hours and 45 minutes, almost 8 hours in the saddle today. This will be the longest stage of the Tour de France for sure. and it'll be an awful lot longer for many, many riders who are a long way behind Jan Ullrich today. It wouldn't surprise me if the pace set by him has eliminated a number of them. He is the winner, to an enormous round of applause and whistles here. Jan Ullrich is home and awaits to see who comes in next.
It won't be Bjarne Riis, Phil, who's in 5th place, losing time in a stage where he expected to make up a lot of time. Doesn't appear he's going to defend his Tour title. Marco Pantani, what a great comeback after a year and a half away from cycling, and a fantastic effort by Virenque 2 days in a row.
Pantani is carrying Richard Virenque to the line. It's going to be in excess of 1 minute, the time gap now, as Marco Pantani again has shown us he is back to his great climbing form, and there's plenty of mountains still to come in this year's Tour de France. This race is not decided yet. Pantani a minute 7, Virenque comes over in 3rd place.
And for Riis, still an admirable ride. He's in the top 5, but his chances of winning this Tour are disappearing on our final climb today.
So this is the arrival now of Bjarne Riis inside 200 meters to go. He has conceded more than 3 minutes to Jan Ullrich. So Riis knows now who he is working for. It is the young man from Germany. Riis comes up to the line as the man he left lower down the slopes, Laurent Dufaux, is fighting his way back to his side. He won't catch him. Riis will cross the line in 5th place, 3:22 down.